All right, everybody, let's jump into another deep dive today.
Sounds good.
So we're looking at Canada this time.
Awesome.
Yeah, that classic trip to the north.
Mhm.
And we're actually basing this whole deep dive on a Travelerholics podcast episode that I listened to recently.
Oh, nice.
It was really cool. They were talking about all sorts of different things that you could do in Canada. And I thought this would be really relevant to our audience because I know a lot of our listeners
Yeah.
are, adventurous and they like to travel and see new
It's
things. So Canada kind of has it all right.
It does. It's really appealing. When they were talking about it in the podcast, I was thinking about all the different types of travelers that it would appeal to because it's not just like a one-size-fits-all kind of destination.
Exactly.
They were highlighting the different experiences that you can have there.
Yeah. And I think that was one of the things that stood out to me from listening to the episode was just how much variety there is in terms of what you can do and see in Canada. So I know you're a big hiker.
Yes.
They were talking about Banff National Park and how it's not just like, oh, this beautiful place. It's like world-class hiking
World class.
for all levels. So whether you're like a super experienced hiker or you're just looking for like a nice stroll in the woods, they've got something for everyone.
Yeah. And I was thinking when they were talking about that, about how much you love kind of getting off the beaten path and exploring. And they mentioned things like Northern Lights tours and wildlife safaris. And I immediately thought of you because that sounds like something
That's amazing.
you would like imagine hiking through pristine forests and then at night seeing the Northern Lights. It just sounds
incredible. Yeah. And that's so different from, like a European city tour or something.
Absolutely. Yeah. Completely different vibe.
Yeah. So if you're looking for something that's really unique and different, I think Canada could be a really good option.
Yeah.
Now, I know you're not all about nature all the time.
Not all the time.
You do appreciate a good city every now and then.
Yes, a little bit of city life.
And they highlighted a few different cities in the podcast. They talked about Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal.
Right.
Which are all really different in their own way.
They are very diverse cities.
Yeah. You mentioned that you were interested in the jazz scene in Montreal, I think, at some point.
I did, yeah. That's definitely something that's on my list.
Yeah.
They didn't go into detail on that in the podcast, but it's definitely something to look into. And I think it speaks to that kind of welcoming atmosphere that Canada has, because they did talk a lot about how friendly and hospitable Canadians are.
Yeah. Is that just like a marketing thing, though, or is that?
I mean, every country likes to say that their people are the friendliest.
Right.
But Canada consistently ranks really highly in global surveys about friendliness.
Right.
I think it's part of their national identity. And it definitely contributes to a positive travel experience when you feel like you're welcomed and people are happy to help you.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's say you're convinced Canada's the place to be. When should you actually go?
Right.
Because they broke it down by season in the podcast, and it seems like, honestly, Canada's kind of a year-round destination.
Yeah, it really is, depending on what you're looking for.
Depending on what you're looking for.
Exactly.
So they were saying spring is great for mild weather, wildflowers are blooming, so if you're into like...
beautiful scenery.
Yeah, like the nature photography, that could be a good time to go.
Yeah, and you mentioned wanting to try kayaking, so maybe a summer trip out west to Vancouver Island would be a good fit.
Oh, yeah.
Because they talked about that.
That's right, yeah.
That's a good kayaking spot.
And then summer, obviously,
Summer's great.
good weather for hiking.
Yeah.
Exploring the cities and everything.
Longer days.
Yeah.
More time to explore.
And then fall, for you, I mean, they were describing the fall foliage, and I was like picturing your photography.
Oh, yeah, the colors, vibrant reds.
And landscapes just bathed in reds and oranges.
It's a photographer's dream.
Yeah, so fall could be a really good option. And then winter, obviously a lot of snow sports.
Right, lots of snow.
But I know you're not a huge fan of the cold.
I'm more of a warm weather person.
Yeah, so maybe winter's not for you. But they did mention some cool winter festivals and cozy cabin stays.
Yeah, that does sound appealing, but I'd have to be in the mood for a snowy getaway.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's get down to like the nitty-gritty, the logistics. What do you actually get when you book a trip with Travelerholics?
Yeah.
Because they were talking about how they kind of handle all the details for you.
Yeah, it's a very comprehensive package. They include round-trip flights, which is a huge plus because international flights can be stressful to book.
Right.
So knowing that that's taken care of is a big relief.
Definitely.
And then they have accommodations, so they have options for different budgets and preferences.
Okay.
So whether you're looking for like a cozy lodge in the mountains or a high-end hotel in the city, they've got you covered.
But does that mean you're stuck on like a tour bus the whole time?
No, that's actually one of the things I really liked about what they were saying is they emphasize flexibility.
Okay.
So they handle the big things like transportation between cities, tours of the key sites, but they also leave you free time to explore on your own.
Oh, that's nice.
Which is perfect for someone like you who likes to wander and discover hidden gems.
Exactly.
And kind of do your own thing.
Yeah, so it's not like...
Yeah, it's not a rigid schedule.
It's a super structured thing.
Yeah.
You have some freedom.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really cool. And they even have like optional activities you can add on like whale watching tours.
Yeah, they mentioned that.
I know you love animals, so
I do.
that could be a good one for you.
That would be amazing.
And they said like 10 to 14 days is kind of the ideal time frame to really get the full experience.
Yeah.
But they do have shorter trips.
Right. They said you can customize it.
If you're focused on like one specific region or interest.
Yeah.
So that's good to know.
Definitely. And we can't forget the family-friendly aspect. They mentioned that a lot of the attractions and activities are really accommodating for families.
Oh, that's right.
And they have kids-specific things as well.
Yeah, because you mentioned maybe bringing your niece and nephew along.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, so that's definitely something to consider.
Definitely.
All right, so the dreaded visas.
Uh-huh.
Everybody's favorite topic.
Yeah.
But they mentioned something called an electronic travel authorization.
Right, an ETA.
Or ETA, what is that?
Basically, it's a pre-approval that you get online before you travel to Canada. It's way simpler than a traditional visa.
Okay.
And luckily, Travelerholics helps you through that process.
Okay, good. So they kind of hold your hand through that whole thing.
They do.
And speaking of help, they had a whole list of perks that go beyond just booking the trip.
Yeah.
They talked about 24/7 support if anything goes wrong.
Peace of mind. Yeah.
Competitive pricing.
Right.
Flexible cancellation policies, which I know is a big one for you.
Huge.
Because you're always worried about, like...
What if something happens?
What if something happens?
I need to cancel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's good to know that they've got...
Yeah, they've got you covered.
that kind of safety net.
Definitely. And they also have a special offer for podcast listeners.
Oh, that's right.
Which is always nice.
So if you use the code Canado15...
15?
You get 15% off your trip.
Nice.
But you have to book by...
Book by specific date from source material.
So a specific date from source material, so don't wait.
Don't miss out.
Yeah.
It's a tempting offer, especially with all the perks and benefits they provide.
Definitely. All right, so there you have it. Our deep dive into whether Canada's the right trip for you, inspired by that Travelerholics episode. And you can always go back and listen to the full episode if you want to hear more details.
Yeah, they go into even more depth on all the different things you can do and see.
Exactly. But we wanted to give you kind of the highlights.
The key takeaway.
And help you figure out if this is a trip that's right for you.
As you're thinking about it, I'm curious what image or experience that we talked about really stood out to you the most.
Yeah.
Was it those mountain vistas or maybe the chance to hear some live jazz in Montreal?
Yeah, what captured your imagination?
We've planted the seeds. Now it's your adventure to imagine.
Love it. All right. Well, until our next deep dive, happy travels, everyone.
Happy travels.
Bye.
Bye.